Good morning and welcome to this joint webinar between Xelros and Ease8. As I just mentioned, we are two companies presenting today. Today we will be discussing about deep technology applied to the automation of insurance processes with a particular focus on accident report process automation. In terms of agenda, Sebastian, if you go to the next slide, we will present what were the objectives and the approach we took for this research project. Then we will explain how we managed to generate training data at scale together with our partner Ease8. And then we will present into more details the deep learning phase of this project. After the presentation that will last for about 30 minutes, we will have a very short demo done by Sebastian, and then we shall keep 10 minutes for question and answers. So do not hesitate if you have any question during the presentation to ask your question in the chat or in the question panel, and we will answer them at the end of the session. In terms of presenters, so we have our trio today. And I will just present myself very briefly, and then I will let Séraphin and Sébastien introduce themselves. So my name is Laure Damoiseau. I work at Xelros, and I'm heading the marketing activity.
Hello, everyone. I'm Séraphin Gabory, and I'm working at Ease8, and I'm responsible for customers and projects. And thank you very much to Xelros, Laure and Sébastien for this invitation.
Hello, I'm Sébastien Sobet, and I'm working as a data scientist at Xelros. And hello, everyone.
So thank you, Sebastian. Before we jump to the current topic we have for today, we thought we would just quickly introduce our company for those of you who don't know Xelros or Ease8 yet. So if I start with Xelros, in short, we are a 4-year-old company, and we provide a software platform based on AI and 100% focus on the insurance industry. Our value proposition at Xelros is really to help insurance players, so assurers, bank assurers, brokers, and reassurers to actually leverage AI to provide a more fluid and personalized experience to their customer during the advice and sales process, through then the underwriting phase up to the customer service phase. And how do we do so? Actually, if you see the little schema on the middle of the slide, we have developed insurance-specific machine learning models which connect to all kinds of data, so structured data, but also unstructured data, such as voice and documents. And today we will focus more on the documents type of data to actually provide predictions and recommendations in real time. And we provide those recommendations either to the insurance advisor or agent, or directly to the policyholder in a self-care portal. So it depends on which case we are talking about. In terms of focus, what is important for us at Xelros is actually to provide transparent and ethical AI. And you will see that we will talk a lot later in the presentation about the predictability and explainability and interpretability, of our models. If we now go into more details about what we do with documents, thank you, Sébastien. So here are all documents that we already process automatically, either during the underwriting phase or during the claim phase. So we have more than 30 insurance-specific documents that we can already analyze and automate, and this in 4 languages. So we currently manage French, English, German, and Italian, and we are increasing the portfolio of documents and language we manage very quickly every week. So there will be more to come. So now I think Séraphin, if you want to say a few words about Ease8.
Yes, sure. So basically, Ease8 is an impact sourcing platform for digital tasks. So why impact sourcing? Today, we have a community of more than 1,000 young women based in 32 countries all over the world. And thanks to Ease8, they are able to work on our platform so as to fund a life project. So some of them are continuing their study thanks to the money they earn on our platform. and some of them are launching professional activities in their countries. This work came from our customers, so big corporates such as L'Oréal, Airbus, or Sodexo, and smaller ones as Xelros. Basically, once the project is set on our platform, the tool is automatically dividing the project into small tasks, and then each task is processed by someone from our community, and they earn money for each task processed. Today, we are processing three main types or three main families of projects. The first two are dealing with artificial intelligence, such as computer vision and natural language processing subjects. And the last one is dealing with data content, so content moderation or content creation, like in product sheets or creation of product sheets for marketplaces. So, Laure, if you want to continue on our presentation.
Okay, thank you, Séraphin. So if we now jump to our topic for today, which is how do we automate European accident report processing, and especially, how do we detect the responsibility allocation between drivers while reading the accident report? So why did we decide to embark on this project? Well, today in France only there are more than 5 million accident reports produced per year, and a very big majority of those documents are actually paper reports, which means a lot of administrative work for the insurance agent in order to process the claims. So our objective by automating the processing of accident report documents and by analyzing and defining the responsibility allocation is actually to reduce the claim process quite drastically and to enable the insurance agent to really focus on those complex cases, where the automation is not possible. So what was our approach while doing so? Well, actually, in France, there is a convention that is called ERSA convention, which is an agreement between all insurance insurers that actually define all the different situations of car accident, which we call the ERSA case. And for each of those cases, then you have the allocation of responsibility that is automatically defined. So our objective was to actually analyze the accident report, be able to define which case we are in, and then we can derive automatically who is responsible for the accident, so which driver, or if the responsibility is actually shared between both drivers. The difficulty with accident report is that it's a very complex document and there is a lot of information to be read and analyzed on these documents, and you have heterogeneous data. So in order to define which cases you are in and who is responsible for the accident, you not only need to actually read the checkboxes features, which are in the middle, but you also need to read handwriting, and actually also you need to analyze the schema that is in the middle that will really help define which ERSA case we are in and who is responsible for the accident. And that was actually the objective now of the presentation, is actually to explain you how we managed to read the schema feature. So I think, Sébastien, I'll leave you the floor now to explain to us into more details how we did that.
Thank you, Laure. So to start, let's talk about data. Why? Because for sure, to start any machine learning project, we need to ensure that we have enough data. Related to accident report, this is quite difficult. Why? Because data acquisition is not easy, because there isn't an available data set on the web. And getting accident reports from Xelros partners is also complex, mainly because there is some sensitive information into it, personal data. So we quickly decided to make them, and at first we tried to do it internally. So asking people from Xelros to do dozens of accident reports. Unfortunately, filling an accident report takes half an hour. So asking people that already have a job to do to, on top of that, do accident reports, it didn't work well. So then we decided to go for the selection of a company to handle this task. And for sure, we had some requirements on that. We have like soft requirements, ensuring that the company we select shares the same mindset and the same value as Zelros. And we have like hard requirements, more related to accident reports, because we wanted a certain level of quality, having handmade accident reports representing real situations. Because there is a lot of information into it, we wanted also to have consistency among all this information. And at last, but really important, we wanted to have something like an agile setup, meaning we didn't want to have all accident reports produced in one batch, but having them like delivered in many batches, so that we can, in fact, the flow of delivery can follow the path of project. And so we will be able like to change the focus from batch to batch. So for this, for sure, we decided to work with Isait, and Séraphin will present you the amazing job that they have done on this topic.
Thank you, Sébastien. So, as you explained, we were responsible on this project for two sides. The first one was dealing with data acquisition. Because when Zelros came to us, they asked us to create, from scratch, 600 accident reports within 5 weeks. As Sébastien explained, they need to have 5 different batches, so we use an iterative method. They also asked us to have high variability between each annotator. It's easy to understand because for Zelros algorithm, maybe Zelros algorithm has to be able to understand every accident report, even if it has been created by Jean-Paul in the north of France or Carole in the south of France. That's why this point is really important. Then they also asked us to have 5 types of output formats. So from the left to the right of your screen, you can see that we create just a simple photo of an accident report, or a photo with a small border, or a photo with perspective, or then a photo of an accident report with a ragged sheet of paper. So how did we manage this project and this first step of the project? We trained and involved 16 ITers, so Isait's contributors are called ITers, from 6 different countries. All these countries were French-spoken countries because they have to write on each accident report. The total amount of hours for this job represents 230 hours within 5 weeks. The second step of this project was dealing with data labeling. Because so as to train an algorithm, even if you have the data, you have to label it properly so as to be able to train your algorithm. So what were the requirements for this second step? Zelros asked us to label each direction vector and vehicle on the small schemas that you can see on the screen using object detection. They also asked us to have high homogeneity between each annotator on the whole dataset. How did we manage these parts? We used our integrated annotation tool. It's really interesting for our customers because they don't have to pay for a soft license so as to use this annotation tool. We also used our integrated quality control. So basically, at the beginning of the project manager, Cedric, realized some golden tasks. Then these tasks were submitted to our community, and then the results of the annotation were matched between the golden task and the task from the ITers. Then, thanks to our platform, our customers are able to use our customer area so as to monitor quality and some key metrics about their projects. So what are the benefits for Zelros and our customers to use Isait? The first one, Zelros team were focused on added value tasks, on developing the algorithm, choosing the best technical solution so as to develop the algorithm. Then you also have a financial return on investment regarding this project. And the last but not least point is dealing with the social impact. So today at Isait, social impact is deeply rooted in our DNA. That's why for each project, at the end of each project, we are sending to our customers a social impact evaluation. So this document is the real one sent at the end of the project to Zelros. And on these documents, you can find some key metrics regarding the project, as the number of ethers trained. But you also have some real testimonies from people who worked on this project. So you have 2 testimonies here from Lauren and Sansa, who are based in Madagascar and who worked on this project. It's really important for our customers because they have a direct link and a direct window so as to measure their impact on our community. Sebastian, if you want to continue on the more technical side of the project.
Yes, thank you, Seraphim. So before diving into the details regarding the model we built, we propose to give you an overview of our processing pipeline, so you can understand that how from an accident report, we managed to get the responsibility with an IRSA case. So in fact, we have a first step, which is in fact a segmentation step, whose aim is to identify the several kind of data which is present on an accident reports. So we have in fact three kind of data, which are the checkboxes, the schema, and the signing part. Once the segmentation have done its job, in fact, we have dedicated models that will process the several parts. And at the end, we will have this information gathered into a decision tree so that the decision related to responsibility is made. For today, mainly because of time constraint, we will not be able to cover all the models that we have developed. So we'll focus our presentation on the segmentation part and the schema feature extraction part. Okay, so regarding the segmentation, what is our objective? Our objective is to identify different parts on the accident report. So in fact, we decided to go with segmentation because by definition, segmentation is about finding a class on a picture, on an image. Except that in our case, we don't have to find only one class, but we have to find 13 classes because we split the accident report in 13. So in fact, we are facing what we call a multi-segmentation problem. In terms of architecture, if we speak segmentation, for sure we decided to go with the UNITE architecture, which is composed of 2 parts, the contracting part, which is here, and the uncontracting part, which is here. And something that we have done, which is quite common nowadays, is not using the standard model as described in the UNITE paper, but by using a well-known computer vision model, which is in our case EfficientNet. EfficientNet being a family of models that have been developed and released by Google like a few years ago. In terms of training, because we were at the beginning of our project, we trained this model on 200 accident reports for 100 epochs. So for sure, to bring some variability among the epochs, we decided to apply some augmentations. Example of augmentation is like rotating the input image, applying some zooming in, applying some zooming out, sometimes changing the color parameters of the image, like changing the contrast or changing the luminosity, and from time to time, applying some blur, applying a Gaussian blur. But certainly, the most important augmentation that we have performed was what we call background incrustation. Why? Because for a given accident report, from time to time, we incrust this accident report onto a random background. So it is the learning from the model to distinguish between an accident report and the background. In terms of evaluation, we decided to use as a metric the DICE coefficient, and we get a pretty good result of 92.1%. And the good thing with segmentation is that, in fact, we have directly a visual assessment of the result of our model. So we can see on this slide some example of the result related to segmentation. So we can see that segmentation is working well on a nice picture without so much border, but it is working also as well if you add some border or some perspective on the picture. And at last, we can see even with some transformation or deformation onto the accident report, the segmentation is also quite nice. Okay, so now that we have covered the segmentation part, let's see how we extract features from schema. In fact, to be able to cover all the cases, so all the accident cases, which are the IRSA cases, we need to extract many features, around 10. But for today, we will focus on one feature, which is identifying cars in opposite direction. So on the left, we have example of car in opposite direction. And so we have like simple examples, but we have sometimes a bit more complex example. Because for example, in this case, we can see a third car, which is like a gas car, which is on the picture. We have also sometimes something a bit different because sometimes people are not drawing from left to right, but sometimes from up to down. And on the opposite, on the right, we have example of cars which are not in opposite direction. But not being in opposite direction doesn't always mean being in the same direction. As we can see, it can be intersection or other situation. Okay, if we go back to machine learning and computer vision, in this case, we are facing what we call a binary classification problem. Why? Because from an input, which is in our case an image, we need to output a binary prediction. In fact, the answer to the question. In terms of architecture, we do something similar as the segmentation, which is not building a model from scratch, but using a well-known computer vision model. And in our case, we are still with the efficient-net family. In terms of training, we train this model on 500 accident reports for 100 epochs, and we do more or less the same augmentations as for the segmentation, except for sure, we don't do any background incrustation. And because there is some symmetry in the schema, we apply from time to time some vertical or horizontal flips. In terms of evaluation, because this is a binary classification problem, we decided to use the AUC as a metric. And we get a final result on our validation set of 92.6%, which is quite great. The thing is, with binary classification in computer vision, we don't have directly out of the box like something visual as for segmentation. But we will see that thanks to interpretability, in fact, we can have a visual representation. Generally speaking, interpretability is about ensuring that predictions made by a model are correct, great, but are correct for the right reasons. In computer vision, there are several ways to do interpretability, but maybe nowadays, one of the most trendy one is by using the GradCam algorithm. Why? Because at the end, it provides a heat map over the input image so that we can see on which part of the image the model is relying on to make its prediction. So if we look at the positive correct prediction of our model, we can see that the model is looking at the cars and the direction of the cars to make its prediction. So this is great. In fact, we can see that the model is not taking any bias. And for sure, this is important to check for bias, especially in our case. Why? Because, as explained before, we train on our model on 500 accident reports. So this is not so much. So for sure, some bias exists on our data set, and we need to be sure that the model is not taking those bias. Maybe to illustrate what could have been a bias, the model could have said that the cars are in opposite direction if it sees like 3 parallel lines. In this case, this is a bias, and this is something we don't want. If we have a quick look at the negative, still correct prediction, we can see in this case that the model is looking about almost everything except the cars and the direction of the cars. So in fact, we can conclude like this negative class is a default class. Why? Because if the model can't see any cars in opposite direction, it will go for the default, the negative class. Okay, so now we have seen that thanks to interpretability, we can have a visual representation or visual assessment of our model, plus checking for bias. But now we will see that interpretability can also be used for model selection. So After building the first model, we decided to try a second approach. So instead of having like a model that from the input image directly predicts the binary output, we decided a two-step approach, which is, as a first step, using in fact a segmentation model based on UNet, whose objective is to identify the location of the cars and the direction of the cars. Then this information is merged with the input image, and thanks to, the information is merged with the input image thanks to convolution, and using the same architecture, in fact, the same model as before, we make the binary prediction. In terms of training setup, it's more or less the same because we used the same amount of accident reports, the same number of epochs, the same augmentations, except now training time is like twice because we have two models to train. In terms of evaluation, because this is still a binary classification problem, we are still using the AUC, and surprisingly, we get the same result on the same validation set, which is 92.6%. Okay, so if we put aside interpretability for one moment, and if we compare the two models, one could say that the first model is better. Why? Because both models have the same performance, but the first one is simpler, so simply take the first one. But now, if we look at interpretability for this second model, we can see that for the positive class, this is the same story. The model is looking at the cars and the direction of the cars to make its prediction. But now, also for the negative class, the model is looking at the cars and the direction of the cars to make its prediction. So in fact, this is more closer to human behavior. And so we can in fact conclude that this second model is better than the first one. Okay, so we make a lot of, we give you a lot of information, a lot of slides. So we propose to make you a quick demo by accessing to our demonstration platform, so you can look how things works. So I'm connecting to our demo environment, and we will process an accident report. So I'm loading. So what do we have? Let's go directly to the schema. In fact, so we have two drivers, A and B, and we can see that the cars are in opposite direction. So for sure, there is an accident. And the key thing on this schema is the fact that the car B is on a straight line, what we call in French a white line, which is forbidden. So clearly, this is B that is responsible of the accident. Now let's see of what we get from our system. So at first, we have like a warning, which is the fact that the document is not properly signed. And indeed, this is true, because only A has signed the document. Then we have like information about the drivers. I will not focus on that because this is not the topic of today. But then we have the identification of the checkbox, the fact that the driver B has identified, have checked, in fact, the checkbox number 15. Then we have an extraction of the schema. And at last, we have the analysis, the analysis I've explained. So the fact that the cars are in opposite direction, and the fact that driver B is in fact, yes, crossing a white line. So this is the analysis. And at the end, we have the output of our decision tree, which is a case number 51, so the IRSA case number 51, and a fully responsibility for the driver B. Okay. So let's go back to the presentation, which is close to the end. So yes, so we are close to the end, and maybe as a takeaway, try just to remind you the messages we wanted to share with you. So the first thing is how we have decomposed the problem, the objective, which is finding the responsibility. In our case, we have decided to use decision trees, but it could have been other. But the message behind that is that it is important to split a problem sometimes in sub-problems so that we can have a better understanding on how to achieve this goal and what path to take to achieve this goal. The second thing, which is certainly one of the key success of this project, is how we did about the data availability issue and the great partnership that we have made with ESA8. The last thing we wanted to emphasize is about interpretability. How interpretability can be used to assess model, checking that the model is not taking any bias, but also how we can use interpretability like as another dimension for model selection. Okay, for today we spoke, our focus were mainly about responsibility, but for sure there is a lot of information that we can extract from an accident report, like the handwritten text, which mainly consists or which mainly represent driver's information, which is important, especially for our clients. Because for our clients, to be able to more easily integrate like the responsibility, it is important for them to have this information so that they can have like matching keys for their internal system. Another information that we can extract from an accident report is about consistency and fraud detection. Why? Because as explained before, there is a lot of information onto accident reports. And in fact, some of this information is duplicated. So by looking at this duplicating information, it could be a first step to consistency and fraud detection. Okay, so this is quite the end of this presentation, and I will let Laure give the final words onto it.
Okay, thank you, Sébastien. And actually, we have quite many questions, so your job is not over. Okay. So we have a question from Mark to start with. Just to confirm my understanding, ESA8 is viewed as a social development platform. So Séraphin, can you please explain a bit more?
So regarding the projects, we are not specialized in soft or application development, but we are working on three main business verticals. The first one is dealing with computer vision project. As for this one, so we trained and we prepare and label the data so as to train computer vision algorithm. We are specialized for natural language processing projects too, and we are able to work on content management and content management projects, but we are not responsible for soft and application development. I don't know if it's clearer for you, Mark.
Yeah, so maybe we go to the next questions,
yes, sure.
And then if Mark wants to have a bit more clarity, then we can go back to his question. So another question for Mark, do you propose any ratio regarding the certainty of the responsibility? I think it's for you, Sébastien.
Yes. So do we provide certain ratio regarding the certainty? Yes, in fact, I hope I'm responding to the question, but when we provide information related to responsibility, like the case or like the ratio, in fact, we provide a confidence level. So this is the first information that we provide, indicating how strong the model is feeling about his prediction.
So here in the example you're showing, it's very small, so it's difficult for us to read. I think it's 81%.
It's 61.
61%. So it means that we are not too confident about this this prediction.
We can have better prediction.
Yeah, depending on the document.
Exactly.
Okay. A question from Edith: how did you detect the straight line in the demo case?
The straight line. Okay, so regarding this straight line, this is in fact as for identifying cars in opposite direction, meaning that we have a dedicated models that have been trained about identifying cars on straight lines. So this is exactly the same principle as identifying cars in opposite direction.
Okay. A question from Roberto: do you capture all handwritten information?
As for today, no, we don't capture all the information because this is a current topic, a current R&D topic on our case. But we can see that we are capturing at least some information, which is currently the first name, the last name, and the license plate number.
And I think our plan as part of the project is to capture most or all the handwritten information at some point of time. So just to comment that this is the project is still ongoing, but we are confident that we'll manage to capture most of the information quite soon. Sébastien, if I'm correct.
Yes, yes. In fact, the objective is to get all the handwritten text in the coming months.
Okay. A question from Florian. Why is interpretability important?
Yes. So as I explained, interpretability is really important, especially when you train a model in a low context data. Interpretability is really important to ensure that the model is not taking any bias. When we try several versions of the model, so I give an example of a bias, which is identifying cars in opposite direction if there are 3 straight lines. But in our case, even if it's less understandable, sometimes the model is predicting on this image car in opposite direction by looking at this area. So this is clearly something which is not good. In fact, I think that currently, and even in the future, having models that are doing great, are performing well in terms of metric, it's fine, but it will not be enough because of the regulatory measure, the fact that, yes, regulators are asking for proof and demonstration, we have also to demonstrate that the model is not making right prediction, but with something which is not without meaning.
Okay, we have many questions. I'm not sure we can take them all, so maybe we take 2 to 3 more questions. So again, for you, Sébastien, why did you choose EfficientNet as backbone network?
This is a good question because as backbone, in fact, there exists a lot of backbones like ResNet, like VGG, whatever. In fact, it's a question of feeling, and EfficientNet is like gathering a lot of improvement on computer vision models that have been made like over the past 5 or 10 years. So this is why I decided to go with EfficientNet. But I will say, if people want to try to reproduce this situation, feel free to try another backbone.
Another one. Do you already have installed customers, and what are the ROI on this accident report process automation? So maybe I just can take this one. So we are currently finalizing the R&D project, and we are already in discussion with several customers to pilot our technology. And I think it's a bit too soon to actually discuss about ROI, but we are very confident, and we are starting projects soon with customers to actually implement this on their claim process. Is that correct, Sébastien?
Yes, I agree.
Is the demo the same as the final product? Question from Martin.
Yes, so not always, because in fact, when a client buys a document recent solution, it will be customized depending of the solution is taking. In fact, as explained at the beginning of the presentation, and I can show you it there, depending of the account and so the license you take, you will have access to a certain number and certain kind of documents. And so this is like the difference that you can get depending of the license you take.
Okay. A question from Rachel or Rachel. What is the accuracy regarding the first name and last name reading?
Yes, this is a good question. So the accuracy is around 25% when we speak about full word accuracy, meaning getting correctly the total last name or the total first name. We have an accuracy around 25% right now, and we are working on that to get better results.
Okay. Another question from Eleonore. Have you worked in other kind of accident parking area cross section? So I think, we are not working only on the situation of car in opposite directions, but we are working on all those different cases, Sébastien. So is this correct?
Yes, this is correct. In fact, to be able to cover all the cases, we have identified that we need to extract around 10 information from the schema. And in those information, in those features, in fact, indeed, there is like cars making a roundabout. There is if the car is parked or not. And but as of today, we have performed only 2 features, which are the one we can see on the screen here. So if the cars are in opposite direction, and if the cars are crossing a white line or not. But for sure, this is an R&D topic, and we will progress on the other features.
Okay. Question for you, Séraphin. How do you ensure to choose the right heaters for each project?
Yes, so on our platform, each heaters get some skills. When they arrived on our platform, they have some specific training sessions so as to get some skills. And thanks to their experience, they also get new skills regarding the quality on the past project. So they have skills at the beginning when they arrived on our platform and when they worked on the platform, thanks to their experience.
Okay. Maybe a last one, a question from Simone. So related to the straight line, did you actually identify beforehand all the relevant cases that might be present into the schema? Then you solve a classification problem. So is that how you did it?
No, in fact, for the straight line, as for the identifying cars in opposite direction, we go with a full deep learning solution. So in fact, the model is identifying cars on straight lines only thanks to data. And so thanks to the amount of data we provide and the augmentation also we apply on this input data.
Okay. So I think, it was a lot of questions. I'm not sure that we could answer to all of them, but for those that we actually did not answer yet, so what we can do is then actually we can go back to you, or you just send us an email, and then we can, of course, then answer to your question later on. So I thank you all for your participation and your active participation during this webinar. I want to thank Sébastien and Séraphin for presenting this interesting topic. And as said, please do not hesitate to contact us at hi@zelros.com and or contact@easaid.com if you want to have more information about this project. And the session is also recorded, so you can have a look at it or forward it to your contacts if they are interested in the topic. And also, maybe one last point, we have a demo environment where you can also test the platform. So again, please do not hesitate to contact us and we will give you access to the demo environment. Okay, thank you all and have a nice day.